Welcome to Indigo Ray TV, the place where we journey to explore the cross and intersection between your humanity and your divinity, where I talk about all things mindset, transformation, and spirituality. So let's dive in. Hello, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hey, Mosaic Souls, this is Rachael Alexander, artist and Mosaic Soul mentor, aka spiritual teacher and transformational mindset coach with flair. And today I wanted to talk about why boundaries are super important. Before I dive in, as always, the whole purpose of Divine Daily Coaching for the month of December is to give you guys support in creating lasting and positive transformation in your lives such that you can create the life that you truly want in alignment with your soul and heart's desires. And so I'll open the floor up for questions after I chat a bit about this topic. And so I'm super excited to talk about this. So there's three main reasons why boundaries are super important. And if you stick around, just definitely check out the first link in the description box below before I dive in to grab my free alignment starter kit where you get really clear on what you want to create, especially for 2021 coming up. Okay, so let's dive in. So number one reason that having boundaries, first of all, what are boundaries, right? You know, I always like to dive into what, why, how. So what are boundaries, right? And why are they important? The reason why, what boundaries are sort of unspoken agreements sometimes, or even spoken agreements between individuals, the way that I'm defining it, between different people, right? So we all have like our yeses and our nos, right? And having boundaries that support you in being the person that you are is really super important, right? So a boundary is basically an agreement or an understanding of what you are willing and are not willing to do in your life and or business or whatever, right? So that's what a boundary truly is. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi in the chat below and where you're from. So that's what boundaries are. So why are they important to even have, right? A lot of times what happens is when you are an empath or you're someone who is very caring and you're very like other centric, like you really care about others or you give and pour into others a lot. Sometimes what can end up happening is that we end up burning ourselves out and we stop taking care of ourselves, right? So it ends up leading into this cycle of overwhelm or procrastination or, you know, self-judgment, blame, all this other stuff, right? And so the number one reason is that it really helps you to stand into your truth, right? And what do I mean by that? Is that when you start to speak up for yourself and when you own your yeses and you own your nos, what it creates is it actually creates a win-win situation for both parties in your life, right? But when you're in that situation where you're feeling like backed up against the wall or someone's pressuring you to do something or you feel like you need to people please someone in order to make them happy or not to upset the balance or you're walking on eggshells, right? And you're ignoring your yeses and your nos, is that you are not standing in your own true power and in you're not standing for your enoughness, right? So this is sort of what I mean by standing for your truth, is that you start to stand for your enoughness and your worthiness, right? I am worthy to be loved. I can love you and still honor my nose, right? I can still have a great relationship with you and not feel like I have to self-sacrifice myself in order to have a relationship with you, as far as like relationships. But it's all kinds of relationships. It could be, you know, intimate relationships, or it could be like business or work or career, right? These are the different types of flavors that it has. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi. So the really number one reason is that it really helps you to stand in your truth, stand for your enoughness, and stand for your worthiness, that you are a divine being and that you have the right and sovereignty to do what you please, right? Without, you know, hurting other people. That's not the goal, right? But to be in your yes is also that person's yes, even though they might not know it, right? So if you have someone who's codependent, or they like are takers, right, rather than givers, often we all need to take and give and receive and give and stuff like that. It's a natural cycle. But when you have someone who continuously takes, rather than continually receives rather than gives, right? It's that imbalance. I talked about that. I can't remember what live I talked about the balance between the masculine and the feminine, but you want to have that sort of equal balance, right? In whatever relationship it is. For example, I remember, I'll get back to that. I'll give an example in the second reason. So the second reason that boundaries are important is it prevents you from being resentful, right? So what happens when we continually operate out of our out of integrity with ourselves is that we become resentful of the other person, even though maybe the person didn't even ask us. Because like if you're a people pleaser, maybe that person didn't even ask you to go above and beyond for something that they weren't even expecting you to do, or stepping in and giving them advice or whatever whatever way this shows up for you, right? And so you start to become resentful. I remember feeling this way in past relationships because I was always a misfix-it, trying to fix everybody. You become resentful of the other person, feeling though as though you're not appreciated, or you're not loved, or you're not being taken care of. And what's really going on in this situation is that you're overly giving, and you're not allowing for the reciprocation or reciprocity, right? You're not allowing for this cycle to go on, right? So it ends up creating resentment and resentfulness in whatever relationships that is. So let me give you an example, right? I remember one of my ex-bosses, I worked in, anyways, I worked in an office, and there I had a boss, and then she had a boss, and then there was another boss above them, right? Above all of them. And so in my old job, my direct boss, she would always just like always be like working, 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 always like going in, and like she would, come in extra early and leave extra late, and she'd be doing her boss's work, right? And her boss would just be like sliding on all her effort and her work, right? And so she didn't have clear boundaries, right? Like she was, an overachiever, a high achiever. She was brilliant at what she does. And yet she didn't establish a boundary like, well, this is the scope of my job, right? This is the scope of what I'm supposed to do. And this is the scope of what you're supposed to do. And because she didn't honor these boundaries, not only did it create, I don't know if she was resentful, but I know she would definitely complain. So it was definitely a level of resentment there. But it also created this sense of overwhelm, and her body would like shut down on her, and she would always be calling out sick and stuff because she was overworking herself, right? So that's an example of how this manifests when we don't set boundaries, whether that's at work, whether that's at home, whatever way that shows up for you. When you don't set boundaries, it can manifest as health issues, right? Or it can manifest as resentment, right? And then the third and final reason is that you actually, when you set healthy boundaries, right, you actually allow the other person to make an empowered choice for themselves, or you allow the other person to step into their greatness, right? So like going back to the example that I shared, like, for example, let's say hypothetically, my boss had decided to stop doing her boss's work, right? It would have had to make him step up and do his work, and she would have felt less overwhelmed and getting sick all the time, and he would have been tapping more into his creativity versus, just riding on the coattail of other people's work, right? Or, let's say in a personal relationship, you're the person who always does extra XYZ for your adult child, right? Or they're a teenager and they know how to wash clothes or blah, 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 blah. But you find yourself that you're always doing it because you're super mom, and you don't know how to set healthy boundaries and teach your kids responsibility, right? And so that ends up breeding resentment for your kids, or feeling like you're always overwhelmed or always extra tired, right? Instead of what happened if you set a healthy boundary there and not being like super mom all the time, not saying you don't need to, take care of your kids, but what you would do, like say you have a 15-year-old and that kid doesn't know how to clean his own clothes, wash his own dishes, wash his own clothes, clean the dishes and stuff like that, you would end up empowering him or her to step into their power, into learning how to take responsibility and for their own lives, right? So it acts as a permission slip for others to step into make empowered choices for themselves and step into their own greatness and their own worthiness, right? So those are really the three main reasons why having healthy boundaries are super, super important, right? So I'm gonna open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, type in them in the chat. And while you're typing, I'm gonna do a quick recap of those three reasons why having healthy boundaries are super important, right? Number one is that it helps you to stand for your truth, right? And it helps you to stand for your enoughness and your worthiness, right? That's the number one reason. Number two reason is that it prevents you from being resentful, and 2B really is it prevents you from getting sick and creating health issues because you're not honoring your own integrity. And then number three is that it allow the other person to make an empowered choice for themselves, right? Allow the other person to step into their worthiness and their greatness, right? And so it creates a win-win situation rather than a win-lose situation where you're always the one doing extraness, when you should just be like being in alignment with your true self, right? So those are the three main reasons. For sure. Welcome, Sam. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know. I'm glad that it's resonating with you guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. If you have any questions in regards to the content that I shared, or if you want to just tackle something around this topic in general as it relates to your life, feel free to drop your question in the comments below. I'd love to help coach you through it. If not, I'm gonna hop off, but that was the three reasons that I wanted to share. I'm gonna stay on for a minute or so and see if you guys have any other questions. Is it Shane or Shane? Let me know if I'm butchering your name. Do you think it goes into not caring what people think? I agree. I think it's healthy to stand your ground. I definitely think those two are definitely linked together. And it's not necessarily that you don't care about what other people think, so you're gonna do whatever you want in crayon, Shayon. Oh, okay, cool. Nice, thank you for correcting me. So it's not like I'm gonna do whatever I want and anybody who gets into my pathway, beware. It's not that kind of I don't care what other people think, but it's like other people's opinions don't shape who I choose to be in the world, right? I choose to be who I am meant to be because I'm a divine sovereign being, and so is everybody else, right? So it's that level of I don't care what other people think versus the I'm going to be a narcissist and take over the world kind of energy. So I hope that makes sense. But yes, I definitely think those two are very, very, very linked, right? Exactly, because most likely we're saying no from a good place. Right, exactly. So there's positive ways to say no. So there's like a toxic way to say no, like, no, I hate you and leave me alone. Or I love you, but that's a no for me. But my no for you is also a yes for you because it helps you to stand into your own power. So if I can't do or I choose not to do whatever it is that you're requesting of me, then you can find someone who is incongruent, who is in alignment with you, right? Right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, cool. I'm glad it's resonating. For sure. Yeah. That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Yeah, caring about what other people think is definitely a part of that sort of people-pleasing energy that a lot of us women usually struggle with to some degree, and men too. And it's honestly, it comes from childhood. Ever since we, go to school, we learn to fall in line, to listen to the teacher, to ask questions outside of ourselves. Never are we taught to actually go within and find our answers, right? We're always, even if you grew up in church like me, you're always looking to the preacher to tell you who's got the word of the gospel, right? We're never taught to go within, right? We're never taught to look within for our own answers, right? And so we're always constantly looking outside of ourselves for validation. And so that creates this sort of people pleasing, lack of boundary thing that goes on in our own lives. Yeah, for sure. So let me know if you guys have any other questions. Shayon, yes, I've always felt weird for being quirky, so naturally I would box myself for other people. You mean you box yourself from other people? Yeah, no, for sure. Like I was always the introverted type of person as well. For I think I've always had a very strong sense of self ever since I was little, right? Always been weird for being actually I would box myself from others to please others. I'm not sure. You saying you would box yourself from other people or for other people? Oh, you'll box yourself for other people in order to please them. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, getting out of that habit of like trying to please other people is definitely the fastest path to start realizing your own dreams and creating your own divine life, right? So that's super, super important. And that's why it's so important to like have healthy boundaries, Um, and I thought it was something that I didn't struggle with until I started self-reflecting. I'm always self-reflecting, but until I started self-reflecting on certain areas of my life, like past relationships or past situations that I gotten myself in that I knew I shouldn't have gotten myself in if I had listened to my intuition and just had some healthy boundaries, right? So we've all struggled with this for sure. Like box my true nature, because I have a natural masculine, laid back, honest approach, and it doesn't always resonate with people. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, be yourself. Like, it's interesting that you say that that's masculine, laid back. I definitely feel like being laid back is definitely more of a receiving energy, which is to me is more feminine, but I understand what you mean. I guess it depends on the type of females that you grew up around. But if like the females that you grew up around are very high strung, like in your face kind of people versus the men that you grew up who are very laid back and honest and to the point, then I understand what you mean. But I definitely understand. Yeah, it's interesting because when you try to change or alternate, what am I trying to say? Change, or I can't remember some type of a word. When you try to change or morph your personality in order to like be a specific way for specific people, like we all do that, right? Like alter. Thank you. I don't know why I kept saying alternate. Welcome, Miss Cherokee. Yeah, so alter. We always try to alter when we try to alter different aspects of ourselves in order to please other people. It never really ends up being healthy. Now, there's a difference between altering your personality and just playing a certain role. Like you're not gonna go to work and be like, "What up, y'all?" unless it's that type of environment, right? But if you there are roles that you do play in your life, so it's not about being fake or whatever, but it's about understanding that you shouldn't have to like not be who you are in order to be loved, appreciated, and all that good stuff. Let me see, Miss Shayon says men are openly honest, you know what I mean, more assertive, it's acceptable for them. Yeah, that's so true. That is true for sure. But women always have to talk a certain way, you know what I mean? Women would get very emotional. Yeah. Women are definitely very much so emotional, but I definitely understand what you mean because I'm definitely super blunt. My ex would tell you that. I would always kind of get in trouble sometimes as a kid because I was always known as someone who was just like very blunt, straight to the point type of person. So I totally know what you mean. But I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's about being who you are, and the people who are going to stick with you throughout your life, like they'll appreciate that aspect of you because they might be caught off guard by it. But the people who like are your ride or die people, like in your own personal family or relationships, they'll get you and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's just Shayon. Like, yeah, that's how she is. And she always speak the truth, you know? So I think that's a beautiful quality to have personally. Welcome back, Mr. None of Your Business. I can't remember your name. Hello, I saw the title, immediately clicked the live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I went over the 3 reasons why boundaries are super important. So feel free to watch the replay of it. I'll quickly do another recap for those of you who are just joining me. The first one was that it helps you to stand for your enoughness, your truth, and your worthiness. Second, it prevents you from being resentful. To be was Zaz, right. Oh, okay, cool. Welcome, Zaz. Second, it prevents you from being resentful. And then to be was it that it prevents you from creating unwanted health issues. And then third is that it allows the other person to make an empowered choice for themselves and to stand in their greatness and their worthiness. So let me know if you guys have any other questions. Welcome back, you guys. Zaz, a feminine person. That's a really cool name. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I honestly felt like a boy growing up. My features were bigger and I had more of a tomboyish, sorry, I'm just like, okay, tomboyish personality, like Kourtney Kardashian's ex. He's very true and sarcastic. Blah, blah, blah. Nice. Yeah, you got to be yourself, man. That's what it's all about. Nice. You're so welcome, Miss Shayon. You're so welcome. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Okay, let me see. Sorry. Sometimes boundaries can make it harder to let anyone in. Not necessarily. The boundaries that I'm talking about is just having healthy, is the difference between having healthy boundaries and like shutting off and shutting down from the world. That's completely different. Let me know if you have a question around that, because I feel like there's something that I could share insight on that. But I disagree. I disagree with you, Miss Cherokee, on that one. I understand what you mean. Okay, cool. Good. I'm glad that you asked. Okay, I've been struggling to assert my boundaries because I feel guilty. I'm gonna answer Miss Cherokee's question, and then I'll come back to you, Zaz. How do we open up? I'm a Scorpio. I understand. Sometimes boundaries can make it harder to let anyone in. Okay, so here, to me, right, there's a difference between a boundary and shutting down or shutting out healthy relationships, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with limiting your time with people who do not know how to communicate effectively, who demean you, who do not value your worth, who does not have a sense of respect and reverence and love and appreciation for you. That is not what I'm talking about. Those type of people who I would consider who have personality disorders, cluster B, A, and C type of personality disorders, who literally have psychological disorders, who might not have been diagnosed just yet. It's okay to limit those type of people or contact with those type of people for your own sanity and for your own health and well-being, right? Now, I'm talking about having healthy boundaries with healthy people, right? People who don't have personality disorders. We all got a little something, something, but like you're not clinically, like if they went into a psychologist and they would be described as, a narcissist or, a psychopath or I can't remember the other names at the moment, but they're not in the cluster B and C type of personality disorders, right? So I'm talking about boundaries with healthy relationships, because sometimes we have this tendency to want to people please and do things for others and put more on our plate because people just expect that from us, or we learned that pattern or behavior from other people, right? So there's a difference between boundaries and needing to like limit your contact with unhealthy people, in my opinion. Okay, so how you open up, to me, I think you can already be open by just being yourself with people and feeling like it's okay to be safe and nurtured and cared for when you're around other people or when you're around a healthy individual. So a healthy individual is someone like that, everything I said. Let me know if that makes sense, right? So I'm not sure if you feel like you're closed into like healthy people, like if you're just closed off from all relationships, because if you're closed off from all relationships, then I can answer that question. Then it's just about sort of healing your own heart in regards to past hurt and pain that went down, and then opening up to the possibility of having healthier and better relationships. I hope that makes sense. Coming back to you, Zaz. I've been struggling to assert my boundaries and stand for them because I feel guilty. Yes, guilt is definitely a great a great tool to get people to do things that they don't want to do, right? It's definitely like a mechanism, a behavioral mechanism that adults will use with children, or that we used like historically. We would use guilt to shame people into doing what they needed to do in order to stay a part of the tribe. And so nowadays, like moms and dads will use guilt in order to make their children do something, or your boss will make you feel guilty, or in order to get a specific result out of you. But learning how to set boundaries is definitely so important. Let me finish reading your comment. Not a people pleaser really, but I feel like if I am in front of someone who doesn't fully comprehend my boundaries or boundaries in general, I have to make an effort. Narcissists who don't know they are basically in correlation with my previous message. Right, right. Yeah, no, and I totally understand what you mean in regards to that, Zaz, because it's totally like, first of all, we need healthy boundaries with people who have personality disorders and with people who don't, right? Boundaries in general don't just apply to people with personality disorders. Boundaries are just healthy ways of like not self-preservation. I mean, self-preservation, but just like being true and honest to yourself, right? When you're being true and honest to yourself, these are things that you do, right? Like if you know that you have a self-care time every day at 7 p.m. and all of a sudden your boo wants to come over or whatever and interrupt that or whatever, you get to say yes or you get to say no, whether or not you feel like it's in alignment with what you want to experience next. But being honest and true is not it's a healthy mechanism to have. Like it's having a healthy sense of self, right? That's the way I see it. You mean like a doormat, learning the power of your no. Exactly. That's exactly what I mean, Miss Cherokee. Yes, I guess I feel like most people are not quality people. I need to find my tribe. There you go. That's exactly what exactly what I put in my alignment map program, is about learning how to find your tribe, finding a healthy support system of people who get you, who support you, right? And sometimes it can be like when you're making that transition, right? Let's say you've had, like me, I've been through this and I'm still working through it. I'm not perfectly there, but I've been through a history of like being around people with personality disorders, right? And so healing and doing all that extra work that needs to be done, and then releasing those relationships and deciding to what capacity I want to interact with these people, and then moving into the space of allowing more healthier and beautiful relationships, right? And sometimes a part of that can be every time you go through a transition or a change, the shift, there's a part where it's like really ugly before it gets really good, right? And that's just sort of like healing in general. Like if you study healing in any modality, it always gets worse before it gets better, because whatever is in you has to like go in, like come out to the surface. Like if you were doing a detox or a cleanse and stuff like that I do with my clients, like sometimes you'll experience detox symptoms, right? And so like the symptom or the detox cleanse in this situation where you're detoxing your life of like unhealthy people, right, could be a sense of loneliness or a sense of like recalibrating your energy and finding your own sense of self, or recalibrating your energy and finding your own sense of wholeness. It can feel a little bit lonely sometimes. I definitely feel like I've transcended that part. Like I probably felt that way a little bit. But what ends up happening as you continually do this inner work, you'll start to attract your tribe, exactly as you said it, because like attracts like. But if you keep acting like you're broken and you keep reenacting the same habit patterns that attract these type of people into your life, or that sort of signal to them or flag them that they can take advantage of you, right, then you'll never heal that, and you'll keep attracting people who use and abuse you, if you will. So yeah, that's exactly it. Learning not to be a doormat for sure is the key, right? Learning to stand for your greatness, stand for your worthiness. And as you do that, you'll start to attract other people who do the same, but also know how to have a healthy relationship, right? So that's why boundaries are super important. And it's in all areas, right? Not just, family or personal stuff. It can also be, um, yes, for sure. I have a few Scorpio cousins. Scorpios are definitely a little bit different. um, it really depends on your upbringing and how you view things. Like if you are a people pleaser or you tend to do way too much for other people in sacrifice of your own needs, right? That's sort of taking advantage of something. Or if like your boss knows that you're going to be the person to go above and beyond and ends up giving you all the work that they should be doing, or giving you the work that Sally should be doing because Sally is shitty at her job, then that's, you know what I mean? Then that's where a healthy boundary needs to be set in place, you know? So that's how you could kind of get taken advantage of. It can show up in many different ways, or where your kid is like, "Oh, well, like let's say you were in a marriage, right? I know I used to do this with my parents when I was little." But like you're in a marriage and like you go to like your little like your kid comes to you and goes to the dad, and the dad says no, but they always know that mom says yes. So they come to you and like, "Mom, can I do X, Y, and Z?" And you don't ask what did your dad say, and you just say yes, then that's your kid like taking advantage of you, right? Like so it can manifest in many different ways, right? Being manipulated or taken advantage of and blah blah blah. But yeah, for sure. Okay, you guys, can we grab unhealthy boundaries from others? Yes. I feel like a lot of our sort of habit patterns that don't belong to us, or habit patterns that prevent us from being our true divine selves, are picked up from other people. Like, usually I feel like we come into the world as sort of like a blank slate, if you will. Not really a blank slate. We come with our own, divine gifts and all that stuff. But like our habit patterns and the things that we learn and our coping mechanisms and stuff like this and how we operate in the world is totally taken from our environment, most of the time from our parents or the people that were around us the most when we were little. And as we grow up, our siblings or our friends or cousins and all this other stuff, we start to pick up other sort of coping mechanisms with people, right? So usually there's some type of benefit that exactly. So it always is rooted. These type of patterns, lack of boundaries is learned from other people, right? So if you had a mom who always let your father walk all over her and she didn't set boundaries, then you would learn that that's what you do when you're in a relationship with a man, or when you have a relationship in general, right? Or if you had, I don't know. I don't want to give more examples, but you get what I'm saying. So yes, most of these patterns are for sure learned as we're children. We learn them, we pick them up, and we think, "Oh, this is how we operate in the world," right? Not really knowing that it's actually very unhealthy, and it actually prevents us from being who we truly are at soul level. Okay, cool, you guys. Well, it's been wonderful chatting with you guys. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi. If you have any other questions, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. I hope this has been transformational, because I definitely know that boundaries have definitely helped me to be more authentic and be happier and healthier in my own divinity, in my own life. So I know, having these healthy boundaries will also help you as well. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I will hop off. Boundaries in the spirit realm. I don't understand them. Boundaries in the spirit realm. I don't understand them. I feel like that's a whole nother topic, Miss Jerky. That's a whole nother topic. I'm gonna save that for another. Like, do you have a specific question around that? You're so welcome, Zaz. Welcome back, and you're so welcome. I feel like that's a whole nother topic, Miss Cherokee, as far as yeah. I feel like I can do a whole nother live on that. So I'll save that question for another time. Thanks so much. I always take off. You're so welcome, Miranda. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're so welcome, you guys. So you guys remember to always flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because wait, before I do that, I just want to let you guys know that I'm going to be doing a live workshop or live masterclass really soon. And in order to learn about that, definitely hop on my list. You can grab my free starter kit just to in the first link in the description box below. So definitely hop on my list because I'm going to be having a free masterclass coming up soon in this next week or so, talking about how to get unstuck, how to stop people pleasing, how to stop being perfectionist, how to stop second guessing yourself and start creating the life, an intentional life that you really want, and to stop feeling shitty all the time and start really operating in your own power. So definitely join my list by grabbing the free starter kit in the description box below, and I'll let you guys know when this masterclass is going on. Okay, now that I'm finished doing my PSA, cool. Welcome, Miss Kof V. Welcome. So definitely grab that link in. Yes, you're so welcome. Yay. I love Miss J. I love that you're taking action for sure. So as always, flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are divine. You are a divine being, and your soul knows exactly what you've come to explore and experience and traverse while on this planet. So remember, what you conceive is what you receive. What you expect is what you will get, and however you feel is what will become real for you. So vibrate higher, and I will chat with you guys tomorrow. We're almost in the new year. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace, love, and light.